My boyfriend's best female friend said she wouldn't join us on our trip if I went along. He picked her instead of me and switched the trip destination without informing me, so I left his belongings at his home while he was away. My boyfriend wanted to go on a trip this summer to Hawaii with me and his two close friends, a 25-year-old man and a 29-year-old woman, who are also coming along. We had been thinking about this for a long time, but eventually one person dropped out of the trip, so now there are only 3 of us. To give you some background, my boyfriend and I have been dating since November, and our relationship is significant. We have been discussing living together, and we both believe it is a long-term commitment. In early June, one person unexpectedly canceled the trip. Then, a woman called my boyfriend and said that now that there were only 3 of us going, she felt uncomfortable with me joining, because she didn't know me well and didn't want to feel like an outsider. She said that if I went, she wouldn't go on the trip. Without informing me about this, they modified the plans and decided to go on a trip together, just the 2 of them. They also chose to go to a beach in Costa Rica instead. I was trying to decide when to request time off this summer. Since I hadn't heard about our plans, I asked my boyfriend which week in August we should reserve for the trip to Hawaii. He told me that he had spoken to his friend and she didn't want to go if I was going. Therefore, he was going to Costa Rica alone with her. He mentioned that we might be able to postpone our trip for another week, possibly to Mexico City or somewhere else. I was sad, and I tried to talk to him about how the situation was affecting me. Especially because this wasn't a situation where a different trip was planned in advance. This happened when I was asked to go on a week-long trip to a tropical place with a friend's girlfriend, whom I had never met. But then the invitation was taken back. We finally agreed to take a trip together to Copenhagen, a city we both have been wanting to visit, as a way to make up for something. I also requested to see her before the trip to feel more at ease. On the 4th of July, we visited her and her boyfriend in their city. It was nice to finally meet them in person. In the end, the journey was very cold and she was not friendly towards me. My boyfriend commented that she was not very friendly towards both of us. He was surprised that she didn't act warmly towards me. I made an effort to get to know her and her boyfriend. I am usually very friendly and sociable, but we didn't really connect, even after spending several days together. They were a bit distant and argued a little about their future during his 3-week trip without her, which coincided with their planned trip. This trip had been scheduled before theirs. I tried to make myself feel better about the trip, so I told my boyfriend that I still didn't feel okay with everything, and that I felt offended by how things were managed. I tried to make things better between all of us, so I asked him to come up with something to help me feel more comfortable about the trip. During a visit with his family, they inquired about the trip and were surprised by how it was planned. They expressed that they would have been very upset if they were in his shoes. This led to an argument where he asked for help in finding a way to feel more comfortable and secure about them going on the trip without him. He promised to never do it again, but that doesn't seem like a big deal because this trip is a rare opportunity. He sort of suggested not going on the trip, but he had already bought the tickets and made plans, and I didn't want to ruin their trip and have both him and his best friend upset with me. He requested suggestions on how to improve my mood and asked me to directly tell him what to do. He delayed taking action until the day of the trip. He got me a bag of peanut butter candies and I drove both of them to the airport. I feel ignored and not treated well in this situation. I want to end the relationship with him, but I don't want to ruin something that has been mostly positive. I was very upset when I left him, and he was sending me messages, but I didn't reply. I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I didn't feel like doing anything in the condition I was in. I waited until the following day, and then I sent him a carefully written message telling him that I didn't feel secure or cared for during the trip. I informed him that I would be returning his belongings to his home and leaving his keys with the neighbor. He phoned but didn't leave any voicemails, then he texted me saying he was confused. During the following days he continued to call and message me, but I couldn't find the courage to answer or reply. On Thursday, I believe he understood I was serious. He asked me some questions about practical matters, like where his key was, when he returned and found all his belongings in his home. He got very worried and called me, leaving a long voicemail. I was busy all day, but I still didn't feel like replying. He wanted me to clarify because he was confused about the situation. The following day, I sent another message clearly stating that our relationship was finished. He became upset and sent me multiple messages in a row expressing his confusion about why I was ending everything we had built together. He left me an angry voicemail saying he didn't understand why I was upset and didn't agree with the breakup because he had no say in it. He wanted me to tell him the bad things I had said about him in person. I didn't plan to answer him, and I wanted to stay calm, but this made me upset. I sat down to write him a letter. It's a bit lengthy. Feel free to skip it. I attempted to phone him, but I began to cry. I informed him that I would just email him instead. This is the content. The time we spent apart has allowed me to think and reflect. I have had time to reflect on what matters to me in a relationship, and I realize that we should not be together. I apologize for asking you to modify aspects of your life that you shouldn't have to change for me or anyone else. Since the beginning, I've been requesting you to make changes in your life. This trip was organized in a very disrespectful manner. Your female best friend, whom I had never met, gave you an ultimatum to choose between her and me for the trip, and you chose her. You didn't suggest that she meet me. In theory, I was supposed to be your partner for a long time, so this would have been very logical. You didn't suggest she invite another person, and you didn't ask me for my opinion. That's usually enough for most people to decide not to continue with something. Nevertheless, I affirm. This is someone you have a past with that I don't fully understand. This is what I comprehend. Some untrue stories were spread about both of you, saying that you spent a whole night with her while under the influence of drugs, even though you were in a relationship with someone else. Nothing occurred. Another thing I know is that you liked her romantically at some point, but when she started dating her boyfriend, that ended any possibility for you. From what I gather, it took a while for 29F's partner to get used to your presence, but it seems you made an effort to make him feel at ease eventually, although I'm not sure how long it took. This is someone I don't know at all, who excluded me from a trip I was supposed to go on, making the decision alone. You didn't inform me about this until I asked when we were going to Hawaii. You bought tickets in a rude situation when I was hosting dinner with guests. Instead of joining us, you spent over an hour in my room choosing tickets. I kept asking you to come to dinner, but you said it would only take a few more minutes each time. There is no justification for doing it then and there, since she is in the same time zone as us and works from 9 to 5. This makes me feel really nauseous. To feel better about this situation, I want to meet this person. I asked to visit her and her boyfriend, and we planned a short trip to see them. During the visit, they were unexpectedly distant, even though you had agreed to the visit. The initial conversation between a 29-year-old woman and her boyfriend is about how she pursued him while he was already in a relationship and convinced him to date her instead. You tell me about recent talks with a 29-year-old woman where it seems like there are problems in her long-term relationship, involving discussions about children and pets. I have a conversation where I tell you that I notice that, and it concerns me. At the same time, I still hope that everything goes well for you, for me, and for her. Right now, I intend to stay with you for a long time, and I don't see any reason to advise you against going on a trip with your best friend. I hope everything goes well. But every interaction related to this trip is making it harder for me to deal with it. The talks that don't seem to lead anywhere, etc. Your father, mother, and grandparents were all very surprised when we informed them about this journey. It is clear that this trip is risky because our relationship is not very strong. We have only been together for 9 months. How long did it take for 29M's partner to feel comfortable with you being around? Even less likely is going on a private tropical trip abroad without being invited because you asked to go. We discuss it with a friend at the rock climbing gym. We discuss it in the car. We discuss it while we're reserving our Airbnb in Copenhagen. I want to talk to you about how I still feel uneasy and unhappy about the trip. Discuss the act of saying something over and over again. Even though I requested your assistance, you ended up asking me to think about what would improve my mood instead. I also don't have any ideas. In the end, it seems like the initial idea of getting together at my house for a game night before you both leave on the trip has been called off. 29F will be staying at my place, but won't be joining us for any activities before that. You believe that the reason is that you didn't talk to her about it soon enough. This is something that was not talked about even 2 nights before the trip. This makes me upset. You are unsure about what to do. I don't blame you by now, the situation was already out of control. I also don't know what to do. I can't think of any good solution other than waiting for the trip to end. I need to either move on from this or end our relationship, and I don't want to end it. But I am finding it harder to move on. She comes to my house very late, and the next morning we wake up so I can drive both of you to the airport. After everything that has happened, I'm sure you can see how sad I am. I am completely sure that you can see how sad I am. You go away, and when I don't answer your texts, you message me to say you hope I'm fine, and that you're going to sleep. No Lamar. The rest of the week was difficult. The text you received can be summarized as "I'm sorry you feel that way, you say I'm not being fair." No one has recognized or admitted that going on this honeymoon trip, as we previously talked about, could be a really bad and crazy experience, even though I somewhat approved of it. This is not a problem for people in relationships. This is not something that people in relationships typically do. Apart from 29F, I suppose. Ultimately, what I want to express is that I have had important emotional needs that have not been fulfilled, which is something I cannot accept. I have experienced some great and happy moments, but I have also gone through a lot of pain and suffering due to what seem to be personal disagreements. I can't deal with your connection with that woman. I could ask you to choose between her and me. But that's not what I want. I want you to have a best friend, and I want to go away. I loved you. But I am not going to argue about this and have you call me crazy for not realizing that everything is purely friendly forever. It's like trying to persuade someone to enjoy new food, or to choose a different favorite color. I am not happy in this, and I do not want to feel these feelings any longer. This doesn't have to go both ways. I don't need your approval to end our relationship. He sent me an email saying sorry, where he took responsibility for most things without arguing. However, he denied anything related to his relationship with her that made me uncomfortable, and he also denied that I couldn't handle their relationship. He mentioned that the only reason I thought their trip was bad was because of how I saw things. I replied to him saying that trust takes time to develop, and he was putting too much pressure on our relationship before we had built that trust. He said yes and said sorry. For me, things ended in a friendly way, but this type of relationship doesn't suit me. I don't think his responses really helped or made a big difference. I still support my decision for now. In the following story, the fiancée decided not to inform her close male friend about their engagement. When I talked to her, she sent a message to him saying I used to be engaged, but not anymore while I was there. My former fiancé, who is 30 years old, and I, who am 27 years old, got engaged 3 weeks ago. We have been in a relationship for 5 years, and I have finally saved enough money to give her the wedding she has always dreamed of. 3 days ago, we were talking about who to invite, and I suggested inviting her best friend, who we'll call James, who is 30 years old. James lives in a different state, but because we have been friends for 10 years, I wanted to cover his travel costs so that my best friend could be at the wedding. She refused, explaining that it would require a lot of effort to bring him, and she preferred it to be a family gathering. Many times she said James was like family to her. I kept telling her to inform him we were engaged, but she got upset and said she hadn't even told him yet. That caught me off guard. I tried to ask why, but she refused to talk to me, so I decided to leave her be. After a few hours, I tried asking her again why she hadn't told him we were engaged, but she still wouldn't tell me. I must confess, my insecurity got the best of me. In the past, James admitted he liked her, but she told him she only wanted to be friends. However, the way she expressed it made it seem like she saw him as a second option, a fact that not only I, but also her previous partners, noticed. She married him on the internet. They always made their video game characters look like a couple, dressing them alike, even when she argued with her ex-boyfriends. He was always by her side and so on. I told her that it made me feel uneasy. I said that if she wasn't going to tell him, she should think of herself as single, because I wouldn't marry someone who couldn't be truthful. Yes, I was acting childish, but she did something even more childish. She showed me a text message on her phone that said something like, "Hey, just wanted to let you know I used to be engaged, but not anymore," and sent it to him. I asked her, Leia, to gather her belongings and go away from my home. Since she left, she has been calling me, but I have chosen not to pick up the phone. My mom called me because someone told her I was being mean for breaking up over something silly. Hey AITA? Update 1. Hi everyone. I just got back home after talking to my ex-fiancé, as many of you requested an update. However, I want to make a few things clear. As someone mentioned in my first post, I cover the expenses for the house, because I purchased it before we started dating, and invited her to live with me because it was near her workplace. I work from home because I'm in the technology field. However, she has to go to her workplace, so I covered the cost of her car to assist with her commute. To be honest, she doesn't earn much money. I was her companion, so I didn't think there was any issue with it. I believed she was the right person, no matter what. She is intelligent and funny, we got along well, but I felt let down. To the latest information, we met at a coffee shop to talk about how to improve our relationship, or at least that's what she believed. As soon as we sat down, I requested to see their messages. She quickly became defensive and said she had erased all the information. I still requested to see her phone. She began to cry a lot, making an unattractive face, and begged me to stop. At that moment, I had already made up my mind that I didn't want to be in the relationship anymore, but I was really curious. It took about 20 minutes for her to give me her phone. There was a lot of crying, even a waitress checking if she was all right. I read the messages. There was no cheating with exchanging explicit photos or declaring love. But what I read still hurt. Many people were saying bad things about me. Many messages were written about me saying I was a bad person. They criticized my hobbies, such as playing video games and watching professional wrestling, and said I wasn't a real man because of them. But there were 2 subjects that grabbed my attention. One time she told him that I was having difficulty getting an erection, which was bothering her. And one where she was expressing her unhappiness about not wanting to be in our relationship. Yes, I had issues in my bedroom. I was feeling sad because my father had died 6 months ago. I remember telling my partner that if she wanted, she could quit her job when we got married, and I would take care of us both. I'm not sure if she misunderstood, but I think it was connected to that. I really don't know. When I returned the phone to her, she was already explaining why she had said those things to him, mentioning that he was like a therapist to her. Then she asked me if I talked about her to my friends, and I just said no, I don't. She began to cry once more. I took a big breath and simply asked for the ring back. I didn't have the ring with me, as some people had suggested. She thought for a moment but still decided to give it to me. I got up and told her to remove my phone number and stop contacting me. I phoned her mother and requested that she come get her daughter's things from my house. Her mother is a kind individual. I'm starting to understand that I will miss her while I write this. She knew why I chose to break up, but she didn't inquire further. Honestly, I'm happy she didn't. I didn't call my mom. I blocked her for reasons not related to this post. I just realized she never supported me in anything. I always tried to fix a broken relationship with my mom. Before I go, I just want to make things clear. I never had a problem with her having male friends or any friends at all. People will cheat, whether they have friends or not. When I was a teenager, my dad used to tell me, opportunity makes the thief, however. I don't agree with that statement. Since I have the next 2 weeks off from work, I am going to decide how to use the money from the wedding, have some drinks, play games, and watch Monday Night Raw later. Peace drives a 2015 Nissan Versa. She had 2 accidents with it, both times hitting the car in front of her. I never liked the car. The engine is not powerful, the inside feels low quality, and overall, it's not good. As far as I'm concerned, she can keep that car. I would have better chances of getting rid of it by throwing it off a cliff than by selling it. Edit 2, small update. A few hours ago, her mother called me to see how I was doing, and to find out when she could come get her ex-partner's belongings. We talked about the car, and she basically told me not to let her daughter keep it because I was the one who bought it. Please provide the text you would like me to simplify. X wouldn't be able to keep it up. I will hold on to the car until I can sell it, hopefully soon. Some people said the story was not true because they believed I was not a real man for playing games, even though they themselves played World of Warcraft. Honestly, that's my fault, because I didn't explain well. The main focus was on the interest in pro wrestling rather than gaming. However, in some messages they made fun of me for playing certain games like the Life is Strange series. I recall James once asking how a grown man could play such a girly game and cry. I cried while playing Life is Strange. I also cried while playing RDR. The scene where I'm afraid still makes me emotional. I cry a lot, I suppose. I also want to thank everyone who reached out to chat about wrestling and games. It really helped me take my mind off things. I haven't responded to everyone yet, but I plan to. If something occurs, I will inform you all. Be kind individuals. Update 2. Hello everyone. It's been a few days since I last shared my story using this account, and something good has happened since then. First, I want to thank everyone who sent me messages and left nice comments. It made me feel really good, and I truly appreciate all of you. Some of your kind words even brought tears to my eyes. Next, I want to thank everyone who offered me advice, shared their experiences, or simply complimented me. Reading your messages before writing this made me feel great. I have thought a lot about my engagement, and I have no regrets at all. Yes, our relationship ended poorly and she treated me badly in the end. But I don't hold any hatred towards her. I also don't want her to experience failure. We had great times together. I was happy with her. And once again, I believe she was the right person for me. Feeling hatred was going to hurt me more than it would hurt her. To the latest information, her mother came to get her things, and we talked for a long time. It felt like a therapy session. I cried on her shoulder. We laughed together. She told me how important I am to her family, and said I am always welcome in her house. It made me happy to hear her words. Before she left, she inquired if I wanted to know about my previous partner. I became interested, and asked about their well-being. She said she's trying to stay strong, but I know my daughter, she's really upset about this. I left it like that. She hugged me, and then went away. I'm going to give away the car and get a tax deduction. But what I'm really looking forward to is going to the Royal Rumble. I've never watched Raw or SmackDown live before, but now that I have some extra money, I'm going to treat myself. Once more, thank you all for getting in touch. Apologies to those who enjoy drama, but this update does not include any unexpected pregnancies, fights, chaos, or plot twists. The reality is that my life is very dull. Be nice to others.